Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Always Be Testing podcast. I'm your host, DeGrange, and I'm really excited to talk to Vikram Chalana today. Vikram, how you doing?
Hey Ty, good. It's a pleasure to be here.
Happy to have you. Former Seattle guy here to a Seattle guy now, and big World Cup day yesterday. So our
That
team
was
didn't
fun.
win, but it was fun while it lasted, and a great tournament.
Yes, absolutely.
What,
It was
what
really
was
good.
your
Seattle was a destination city. Was one of the host cities, and so I was able to catch one of the games here.
I
Uh,
love
the,
that.
yeah,
Which
Iran
one?
and Egypt. Iran versus Egypt game, and
That's
it
crazy.
was
Wow. How was it?
fantastic. It was really
Yeah.
fun. Really fun. Yeah.
I mean, Seattle's a great city. And, I didn't go to the Sounders a lot when I was living there, but it's just magical from what I was told. And it's a good soccer city, right?
Yeah, it's I and now I'm gonna go. I'm a big fan of football now.
That's
Yeah.
so cool. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people got hooked and excited and into it. So happy to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, Vikram is an amazing leader and a great person to have on the pod. CEO and founder of Pictory, has had some amazing experiences prior to that. And so I think you're in for a treat today to talk about his journey and all that he's learned. It's quite a lot. And so should be a good one. Thanks for coming on.
Awesome. Thank
Um,
you.
let's get into you've spent years as a builder. You've built Wind Shuttle. You've been in the SAP data space. You've scaled big companies. Beyond 300 employees. It's very impressive. Were there any light bulb moments for you that made you kind of go, okay, this AI generated video thing is the next wave. I'm going to build Pictory. What kind of inspired you to build Pictory? And just curious to learn more about what sparked it all.
Yeah. I'll tie it to our Wind Shuttle journey a little bit because at Wind Shuttle, what we did was we had this software that we built for SAP users, not IT people. So uh, everything was controlled by IT, but we were able to empower business people with something to do data loads, data transfers, and stuff. And what I realized is that empowering business people was a really good business. It's a great story. It feels really good that hey, you're like they're able to do something they'd never been able to do before. So as I was exiting Wind Shuttle, I was thinking about okay, what other areas in business have a similar sense to it, where business people feel disempowered. They want to do it, but they can't do it. And from my personal experience, what I'd found was, you know, videos were taking off a few years ago, and they still are. And it was just very hard. Every time I needed to get a video edited or created from scratch, I had to go to this one video person we had in the entire team of 350 people, and uh, and then only to realize that her queue was like packed. Marketing wanted videos, training teams wanted videos, HR team wanted videos, sales teams wanted videos. Everybody wanted videos, and there was like this bottleneck. And people wanted to be able to do it themselves. I picked up Adobe Premiere because that was like the tool at that time of choice, and I got lost in it. Like I literally like I struggled, floundered, um, and uh, and I'm like, there has to be a better way here. And the inspiration really came from Canva, like what Canva was doing around design and kind of disrupting Photoshop. Um, we I figured there's somebody has to disrupt that Premiere and the video space and empower business people to make videos as opposed to always counting on that one designer or that videographer.
I mean, it's a great use case and a believer. And I think for an organization like ourselves, so many like it. It's there for the taking. So that's super fascinating. Y- You talked a little bit about this, but tell us about the road to product market fit and kind of that journey with Pictory and like what you learned through that process.
Um, your podcast is always be testing, and so I think like I really literally we adopted that from the very beginning. It's like, we gotta find the product market fit. We have to iterate, find it, and figure it out. So we started with different teams in different companies, larger companies, marketing team, product marketing team, product management teams. And we tried a bunch of different audiences, and we kept changing the product to kind of fit a given audience. Uh, it wasn't working. Like it was like we got we got to about 40, 50 customers, and it just wasn't growing, because you hear about product market fit as like, okay, when you find it, you'll know it. And we knew that we weren't there yet. So a Hail Mary experiment for us was, um, we launched on a platform called AppSumo. You may have heard of them. They're in
Yeah,
your Austin area as well.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, and and we said, okay, let's see how this works, because it's a slightly different market from what I was trying to sell into. It's small businesses, agencies, entrepreneurs. And I'm like, if this works, I know like it's a different market. Maybe the same product will have a better fit here rather than in larger companies. And um, and that's one experiment I was completely surprised by, because that was one question we wanted to talk about as well. I'm like, we went from within 30 days, we went from 50 customers to 3,000. And then the next 30 days, we were at 5,000 customers. Um,
Wow.
and so we knew that worked. And that was the product market. Everything broke. Support couldn't handle the load. Our systems couldn't handle the load. Um,
So it's a huge one. So like you talked about AppSumo. What else was part of that like huge, huge improvement in your view?
so I think the main thing was realizing that actually the same product worked for a different market. The problem we were trying to solve was something that small businesses faced a lot more acutely than the large businesses, who had agency relationships, who have very strict brand considerations. And the small businesses, agencies serving small businesses, had the same need but a much smaller budget. And uh, and that was a big eye opener for us, is that, okay, the same product, the exact same product, we didn't change
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
Just worked on a different market. So
Love that.
product market fit can be arrived in two different ways, right? You can iterate the product, or you can iterate the market. In
Yeah,
this case, it was iterating on the market.
I love that. I love that. You've had some experience there, and so to be open minded and to adjust is super interesting. Um, we talked a little bit about some of couldn't be more perfect learning conversation for a theme of the podcast than your report, right? You guys have looked at 1.5 million videos, found professional teams that are using workflows. Um, what 9 times the rate of personal users? You're learning all these things from this state of video report you guys put out. Tell us about methodology, putting it all together. What was the big ahas and the takeaways for people listening and curious about video and AI video, and what you guys are doing and what you've learned?
Yeah. So we have now a lot of professionals. We have 30,000 customers, users using the product on a kind of a regular basis.
Congrats.
And we were able to look at the patterns. So we were able to look at the videos, the time they create the videos, the length of the videos, the the source of where the material that creates the video, the type of the videos. And we just like, we have all this data that we have in Amplitude, and we just like went berserk on it. And um, a couple of really interesting things that I found was, um, one is we have a bunch of AI features in there, like avatars and generative videos, generative images, generative videos, voiceovers. And the one interesting thing, like geographically, was there is no Silicon Valley bias anymore about AI. It's People talk about diffusion of AI, and I feel like, at least in the video space, this AI diffusion has happened really fast. And so that was one very interesting finding for us, is because we thought, okay, maybe West Coast US will see more use of AI features and less in Midwest or other parts of the world. And we didn't kind of see that pattern. Like Florida, Indiana, like popped out as states that use a lot of AI of different kinds. Um, the other the other interesting thing was, I thought that, hey, marketers were the main adopters of AI videos, and they would be the one most interested in it. But we find that a lot of teams are interested. Training teams, learning and development teams, they're usually part of HR or sales teams, product teams. So we find adoption kind of also diffusing across roles within companies as well. So those were
It's interesting.
some interesting findings that we saw in the report. There's some interesting things in there about geography and some variations in video
Yeah.
length by country. There's
Yeah.
like just some interesting, but the overall theme was, hey, these are like, AI is here to stay, and it's diffused across roles and across geographies.
Yeah, I love, you brought up the Canva, example as an inspiration. Like, how are you sort of, this is sort of off script, but like, how are you sort of like navigating the competitive landscape of tool explosion and AI? And where do you think that's kind of, I know you've talked a little bit about the market and the, SMB, but I'm curious to learn a little bit more about like how that's popping out, how that's differentiating, maybe like where's that sweet spot. You kind of alluded to it, but I know it's a busy, growing, changing quickly space. Where do you guys like to fit in, and what are you seeing there versus in that crowded space?
Yeah, it is. It is indeed a super competitive space. I didn't like when we started. It wasn't like Adobe Premiere was the choice, or Camtasia or something, and now there's so many tools out there. So it is competitive. It is super busy. But a couple of things we find is, uh, this was one of our design principles. We had two design principles when we started the company. Um, Keep it like Canva or PowerPoint. So keep it simple. Don't give people the Premiere like timeline experience, because where I got lost was in that timeline. I'm like, I don't know what this means and how to think of layers on timelines, and just like it was just very hard. I was a PowerPoint user, so give that PowerPoint-ish experience to the end user. That was one design principle. The second design principle we had was, the blank slate. You shouldn't have to start with a blank slate. When you open Premiere or Camtasia, it just like opens a blank canvas, and then you got to figure out, okay, what are you going to do? So our design principle was always give people a way to get started on the video. Whether now it's all prompt, everybody wants a prompt, but our core thing has been about repurposing content. So whether you have a PowerPoint or a PDF or a blog or an existing recording, our whole goal is like, we make it really easy for you to bring that piece of content and turn that into a video. And to some degree, that's kind of our differentiator. That's our category maker, that we repurpose content to video, and and people are sitting like, I'm sure your company, like you have so much blog content that you've written. You probably have so much, so many PDFs, so many PowerPoints that you use in the company,
Yeah,
and instead of starting from scratch, wouldn't it be great to convert some of those into videos to begin with?
it's perfect use case. I mean, it's almost too perfect. Our problem isn't the production; it's the, and I think it's true for so many of like, how do you pull out some golden nuggets? How do you continue to publish? How do you continue to add value? How do you stay consistent? How do you repurpose? Because the thing you wrote about 5 years ago is actually maybe really needed right now for somebody, or really helpful for this individual, or um, this particular use case. So I love that, and I think it's a common problem.
Yeah, and there's two axes to this, as you can imagine, Ty. One is the personalization axis that you talked about, like okay, now somebody needs it because you're talking about it with them. But there's also channels, right? Like okay, now there's this new channel, like people want to create TikTok videos and Instagram reels, and so you want to have the same content which you had maybe a YouTube video for, that you want to create a TikTok short or a YouTube short from, as an example. I mean, again, there's so many channels that videos are going into now.
Oh, absolutely. And I think being channel specific is valuable, and it's interesting. And I I got my little trial set up. I'm excited to play around more because it's timely for us. We've got a lot of tools going, but excited to jump in. Um, it when you talk getting AI going at scale, and like even for brands that are maybe on the smaller end of the overall spectrum but want to get AI video volume up significantly, are there things that your the product's able to do in terms of like auditing existing and then saying, hey, this is what we can do for you? Or is there a way to like maybe highlight like this happened for a company that kind of plugged into the Pictory as a system? They get some of the use cases, and like I love the differentiation, but is there like
Those
a
are
how, or a like how it landed in terms of a story? I'm curious to hear more about that maybe.
Yeah, those are some good ideas that we are constantly talking about. We haven't built that into the system, but one common theme that we hear from customers, especially in this training department, but even in marketing teams, um, my content changes, but my videos don't always reflect that. Like so,
Mm,
my my training material changed, the core of it changed because of some regulatory changes or because my product changed, but the videos that we have online don't reflect that. So if like that, to me, is one of the biggest drivers for many
yeah,
customers trying to look at better tools, but also that's one that we can build into the product, that hey, we sync your source document, we know what source this video was created from, so that when
yeah.
that changes, we give you a
Oh,
notification that hey, you should
interesting.
yeah. So
It,
those are some roadmap items.
yeah, and our world of partner marketing. I think with SaaS, it's super interesting because you've got reviews, you've got influencer creator, you have uh, you know publications that make sense. There's there's the opportunity to look at like a value added reseller of some sort where their job is to basically recommend this or implement it for a brand as part of their workflow, like a content creator. The other one is an interesting bucket of like the technical integration. And I think like my brain starts to think about that of like, if this is your current stack, I don't know if you're using Lovable or something else, or even a product like this, Riverside for Pod. I'm curious if there's conversations, or if you've already gone down the path of like, okay, we're sort of
Integrations.
plugged in. I'd love to hear your thoughts on integrations and just where does that sit for you guys?
Yeah, so we see it as two kinds of integrations. The input source documents where they're coming from. So that's often, like Google Drive or Microsoft 365 or sometimes it could be um, like Notion
Hmm.
articles that you published
Yeah,
in Notion that you want to convert, or Atlassian Confluence. So those are
yeah,
like the sources. Then the destinations sometimes can be the same. Like you want to publish that video back into your Confluence page, um, or the destination can be YouTube or Vimeo, or in case of a training video, the destination often is a learning management system, an LMS system. uh, so there's like a whole bunch of different inputs and different outputs. And in the marketing world, it could be like WordPress or Salesforce
yeah,
or HubSpot as kind of the
yeah,
where your knowledge lives.
yeah. I could see that working really well. We're big Notion fans also, so power users there, and um, those connections and like the explosion of MCPs and folks leveraging proper APIs to do this stuff is super interesting. Um,
Yeah.
Obviously, you talked about your big aha around market change and that test. Are there other experiments or other tests that you want to reference or share with the audience, either at Pictory or in your past great experience, where it's like, wow, that outcome was really not expected. That was a learning that really is really fascinating to share with people.
So as a SaaS company, like we're constantly running experiments, right? Whether it's pricing experiment, landing page experiments, experiments on checkout flows, experiments on where certain features fit and stuff. And sometimes we find like small changes have a big impact. Uh, we I think just today I was reading, my product management team did an experiment about the checkout flow, where it was a multi-page checkout flow, and they converted it to a single page checkout, and it improved the conversion rate quite a bit. And I'm like, this is like simple, small experiments, and kind of these things build on top of each other over time. And there's many that we want to still do, but yeah, that's one example of a very recent thing that
Yeah.
we did.
With the report, you kind of highlighted some of the learnings. The geography thing was really interesting, where like Oregon was super over indexed on some of the image generation. Were there other geographic takeaways that you found interesting? And you kind of alluded to them, but they're love to dig more into the report of sharing those learnings with people as it relates to like how they think about market or AI image generation.
Since we were talking about the World Cup, we found that Spain had the the longest videos. Spanish people generated the longest videos. So I was talking to my colleagues who speak Spanish, and I'm like trying to understand this. So obviously there's two reasons. Uh, the different kinds of videos are of different length depending on what you're trying to do with it. Like a social media video that goes into Instagram or TikTok is usually under a minute long, or usually, and so on. Whereas if you're creating a YouTube video, it's kind of 7-8 minutes is kind of the right length for it. And same thing with training videos. Training videos, the optimal these days, the micro learning videos are about 3 to 4 minutes long. So we looked at the Spanish videos, they're training videos. So they should be around 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes long, but they were about 7 minutes long. And and then understanding that from our Spanish speaking colleagues, what we understood was that it just the language is like, to say things, it just takes longer. It just is a that's how. And I don't speak Spanish, but I can understand it from being a bilingual speaker, that some languages, it takes longer to get to what you're trying to say than
Yeah,
in other languages.
yeah. I'm thinking of like I saw Will. I don't know if he was on the ESPYS or something. He, the great comedian who's Hispanic, was doing a bit with Will Ferrell, and they were riffing, and Will Ferrell was translating for him and clearly giving absurd answers that were not the correct translation. That was absolutely unbelievable. The comedian would say something like one liner, and Will Ferrell would go on for like an hour describing
Expand
this absurd scene.
it.
It was so good. Of
Yeah.
course, promoting his new show, which I heard was decent and pretty funny. So might have to check that out. Um, you you're a leader. You're an entrepreneur. You've led SaaS companies in the past. You're leading Pictory. For aspiring CEOs, entrepreneurs, leaders in tech, those that are diving into AI like we all are, what is some advice you can give just from a career perspective of maybe some of the lessons you've learned into something that can be digestible for them to say, okay, I can take that and hopefully use it to help my journey to be a leader or an entrepreneur or a CEO?
Yeah, I'll tell you how I use it personally as a CEO, and I use it a lot. I use ChatGPT and Claude both, and um, I use it. Obviously, the obvious use case that people have is like emails and stuff. So connect your emails, connect your systems to it, make the harness work really well for you, right? So we connect Slack and Google Drive and emails, so I can actually get specific questions. So I'm preparing for a board meeting, for example, and I'm asking it to give me the highlights of last quarter and give me some top things that I should tell the board about. And that's like a simple use case, but it needs a lot of your data, your connections to your systems too. And it did a relatively good job to come up with that kind of information. Um, so that's more productivity stuff, and that we use it for. But then recently I've started building Claude skills. So that's another one, like you should, everybody should be exploring that, and anything like the repeatable, that's a repeatable thing that you can, and
Yeah,
yeah, and I trained it on certain types of documents that, hey, I want you to create these kind of files, and then I'm just giving it some input and saying, hey, create this kind of
yeah,
file for me,
yeah,
and it works really well, very repeatedly.
yeah.
Um,
If you wouldn't mind sharing, like, one CEO to another, I am curious. There's always these, wave of adoption, right? And you're an AI company, so I would imagine you all are your engine of your company is built around AI, so it's a requirement. But in terms of maybe like the non-technical teammates that are supporting, and there's various degrees of tech, like how have you gotten how have you implemented AI adoption, if you wouldn't mind maybe just sharing? And like where do you think that balance is strike? Like how do you kind of measure success on that front? Because I think about it as well, and I think we've done a very good job. We're smaller. We're different. We're a service-based business. We have technology to support the service that then complements other technologies
yeah,
to give people the best, partner marketing offering. You guys are a core engine that's basically generating content, utilizing AI at scale.
yeah.
How are you adopting it in the non-technical, and how much are you demanding that happen, and when, as a fellow leader? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'll give you our one of our best practices. I think it's been well received. So every 2 weeks, I have a how we use AI meeting. Like I do my all hands monthly, but how we use AI happens every 2 weeks, and and every team, every individuals can volunteer to present, but people see each other using tools, how they use it, and then they're inspired to use it. And I've asked every team to use it: finance team, accounting teams. The marketing team obviously uses a lot of AI. And as you can imagine, the dev team is super heavy Claude and uh, Claude code users. So they're constantly.
Love
So
that.
I checked with my CTO last, and he said about 85% of our code is touched by Claude. It's Claude generated. So I would say 100% of the team is using AI uh, in
Yeah.
different levels,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, in all departments.
It sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really impressive. It's funny because we do we call it office hours, but we have a very similar structure on our check-ins of like show and tell learning. It's really been great, and um, I think it's fascinating because this came up on the SaaS class podcast where it's not necessarily a binary thing. There's things along the continuum, but I think that having that human there's jokes and memes and stuff of like I can get something out the door that's pretty minimum MVP in an hour that's like a full-fledged app, and then it could take you weeks or months to get it right. And I think
Production
that's a
ready.
fascinating thing, right?
But as a software company, that's another really good use case that we found is our product team will basically create apps in Replit or Lovable. Whenever they want to create a new feature, they will actually
Yeah.
create, instead of using mock-ups that you used to do before,
Yeah.
now they'll actually
Just
create
build.
working prototypes and
Yeah.
share it with the engineering team, and then the
Love
engineering
that.
team has an easier time adopting it. Design team do that, product teams do that. So I think that
Love that.
that's really good.
I love that. um when you think about like the long game and you zoom out on all this stuff, like what gets you most excited about bringing video to so many people and being able to like empower people to create video at scale?
I mean, I feel like it's already happening to some degree. A lot more people are able to create videos than before. I wanna see I mean, there will be a lot more personalization now, because now it's possible to easily create videos. Videos will become more interactive moving forward. I So we're already kind of doing some experiments around there, that hey, uh, if it's an educational videos, knowledge checks are automatically inserted within with the video, so it pauses, forces you to ask questions, answer the questions, then moves to the next step. So I feel like those two are the ones that are going to be next, like personalized, choose your own journey type videos, and then these interactive videos that will, again, kind of the same idea, is choosing a journey. So it won't be a passive experience anymore, at least in the business context. I feel like there'll be a lot of specific to you with more active.
Yeah. Yeah, the personalization thing is crazy, and it's a fascinating thing. Vikram, this has been awesome, and I just appreciate you taking the time to jump on and give us your perspective. There's a lot here to share with people, and the success you've had leading up to Pictory, the journey you've had with Pictory, the ability to like find that right market, and really truly test and learn in the spirit of the pod. It's really appreciated. Just kind of coming down the final stretch of like some more rapid fire and then some personal questions to get to know you a bit outside of your appreciation for World Cup soccer. Uh,
Mhm.
is there a tool that's like kind of caught fire for you or your team? I mean, you've highlighted a bunch. So, is there something that's non-Pictory related that's like, wow, that is an AI tool that is? I have a feeling you might say what I think you're going to say, but I'm curious if there's one that's notable that you want to share that's maybe a little underrated or under the radar.
Um, I don't know if it's under the radar, but I have personally adopted Whisper Flow. I think now they rebranded as Whisper.
Yes.
uh, and it works really well from transcript perspective. Again, Siri does a decent job But what I like about Whisperflow is like I can just dictate whole emails to it, and it does the formatting, bullet pointing, all that stuff. And I use it for prompting. I use it for a bunch of things. So that's been one really fun tool for me
Great
recently.
example.
Uh,
I admittedly downloaded the app. I've heard great things, and it takes me a bit to like get into a habit state on these, and
yeah,
I'm not quite there on Whisper, but I've heard it's off the charts. So I appreciate the reminder.
it's great. Yeah, and the team. I think the team has just been fascinated with Cloud Code and Cloud Cowork and stuff, and everybody's been kind of using it.
Yeah,
And we do have an enterprise license for Chat GPT, and I hear really good things about Codex, and
yeah,
people have been using that
that's
as well
bumping
in our
up on
team.
my radar just in the comments and the people calling it up like a new. It gets more. It's getting more attention of late. To your point, from what I've
Yeah.
seen. Is there a metric in SaaS in the dashboards that you're like, okay, I could deprioritize that or maybe get rid of it and not be upset?
Oh, that's a good question. Uh, what could I deprioritize? I think there are some things that I'm looking at because I'm just it's a habit to look at, like, you know ticket density as an example, like how many people reach out versus the number of customers you have. And and I think our support team is doing such a good job that I don't need to look at it anymore. That's an example of like when it goes bad, then you want to look at it, but when things are going well, you don't care about. I don't know if that's kind of that's the intent of your question, but that's one, at least from my metrics, that I don't need to track.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I think everyone has like different, uh, you can't look at everything. And I think it's like good to like get a sanity check on like what matters to for you and what could be deprioritized. So it's good to get your perspective.
But one of the things we do every quarter is we'll focus on one metric that we'll all work towards. Like, we had 2 quarters ago, we had churn. We were all like focused heavily on churn. Right now,
Yep.
we're like this last 2 quarters, we've been all about activation rate. So just work on improving activation rate, because it's such a leading indicator that if you get good activation, better activation, it'll lead to conversions and
Yes.
retention as well.
Yes. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. That's actually a big one. We could almost have an episode on that, like for like getting the activation right, getting the onboarding right, getting those ahas and that setup right, so that they are less likely to churn later. What a great call out.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Conversion is higher, churn is lower. It's a really good leading indicator.
yeah, yeah. Is there anything there that's like maybe you want to double click on that's worthy of sharing on the on that setup or that onboarding or that activation? Because I think that's a really cool concept that a lot of people forget when they think about churn that are maybe not as familiar with SaaS or growth.
Um, I think you can make it into a vanity metric, like, because you can define your activation metric to be anything. So you can define it to be somebody set up an account. That's not really activation.
Yep.
Activation really is, the value that you're trying to deliver or promise your customers. Do you get to that value? Does
Yep.
the user get to that value? And at least that's a minimum what it should be. Now, whether that leads to sticky behavior or not, that's still a separate question. There is actually, like, I would say, we don't track it, but there should be an adoption metric. Like, okay, like we were talking about Whisper Flow, like you probably tried it once and then it just hasn't become a habit.
Yep.
But maybe there's an adoption number to it. Like, okay, if I tried it 3 or 4 times,
Yeah.
then it becomes a habit. Then it's like,
Yep.
so there is like a difference between that. So a well adopted
Yeah.
product is also going to be highly converted and better retained.
Yeah. How do you get them into habit soon enough? One of my favorites. We talked a little bit about books, my enjoyment of books. We have a RBL reading list. Might be a bit of a bookworm, admittedly, good and bad. You have a nice little shelf behind you, as we discussed. Is there? It doesn't have to be a book, but is there a resource? It could be a pod or a site or a post or a Substack that's like you got to suggest it to the audience. It's too good not to.
Uh, well, I'll do both. Like again, these days my reading list. I'm also like a bookworm, like you. My reading list kind of varies every time, but these days it's more leaning towards Buddhist philosophies and stuff. I'm not a Buddhist, but I'm learning about it.
I
So
love that.
there is there's something called the Tibetan Book of Death, which is an amazing read. It's not just
Man,
about death,
yeah.
uh, and it's about death and the process of dying, but also like how you prepare yourself throughout your life for that.
Wow.
Um, and so it's that one is
Heavy
really
hitting.
good. It's heavy. It's heavy, but it's fantastically done.
Wow.
And
That
the
sounds
other
awesome.
one, the podcast that's my favorite, my always go to is Lenny's podcast. So if you're a
Yeah.
SaaS person, product person,
He's
that one is
off
fantastic.
the charts.
Yeah.
I came across him through the Reforge community. I was a total junkie through that and got to know a lot of the leaders and entrepreneurs and residents, and we did some projects for them. They're just such an amazing group.
Nice.
Now part of Miro, and I think that's how Lenny came across my radar, and so then I was just hooked once he launched. He does such an amazing job. Yeah, that's a really phenomenal call outs for on both fronts. Um, anything final that you're excited to try for the business or test between now and the end of the year, or an experiment that's like, man, I would like to try that, or and you don't have to say if it's top secret, but just
It's
curious on
not
your.
top secret. So I'll tell you like something we're trying right now, and and again, Claude is a big part of this. So uh, you've heard about generative videos, like all the stuff. Sora was doing it, and VO3 and all that stuff, and the generative imagery and stuff. The one other thing that's happening in this video world is code generated videos. So you write code that then renders as HTML or something that that's actually a working video. So you can imagine motion graphics, you can imagine animations, you can imagine
Yeah,
all kinds of things.
yeah.
So that's something we're really excited about. We're
Wow,
digging deep into for the next version of Pictory,
wow.
and and that
That's
one has
interesting.
been, yeah, that one has been a very passionate passion project in the last couple of months, and we'll have a new version of Pictory that will
Yeah.
include
Are you
this.
just reinventing Flash? Just kidding.
I know that's no.
Just-
I was thinking exactly that. The HTML created videos is reinventing Flash. Yeah.
But no, that's interesting because I guess, from there you could be consumed in more formats and more easily produced and distributed, right? Isn't that the
And all those interactive things that we were talking about, like making videos interactive, it just makes that possible now.
wow?
And
It's
code
kind of
generation has
wild to
gotten
think of
so good. Yeah.
where this is going because everyone could see a different version. You could kind of tweak a video for your own experience. That's wild.
Yep.
Well, so cool. I mean, Vikram, this has been perfect. We nailed it on the timing. We nailed it on the learnings. Like, I think we just, yeah, it was really a pleasant surprise, and I appreciate you coming on. Anything that you want to share that maybe people don't know about you, or where they want to connect and learn more?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn all the time. So hook up with me on LinkedIn.
Let's do it.
That's my place. And yeah, if you're ever in Seattle, look me up, and we'll go have
Beautiful.
some Starbucks
I
over
love,
caffeinated city.
yeah, I won't hesitate to take you up on that. And I love the reserve location that they did. Is it on Second
Yeah,
Street? My memory serves me.
it's closed now, by the way.
Oh,
I know, it was beautiful, and he
buzzkill,
made it. I
literally.
know he made it like the Willy Wonka's chocolate factory,
I
and
love
it was
that
like the
place.
motive. Yeah, but
All
it's
right.
closed.
Don't worry. We'll find another coffee shop in
Yes,
Seattle. I
we'll
have a
find lots
feeling.
of coffee shops.
Vikram, you're the man. Thank you so much and appreciate you. And thanks for joining.
All right, Ty, it was great.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.